We're fearlessly talking about the biggest stories that matter to you the most. Breaking news, John Calipari is finalizing a 5-year deal to become the Arkansas Razorbacks' next head coach, covering college sports like no one else. The biggest guests in sports. We now welcome in Hall of Famer Jim Calhoun.
Such a pride I had, I came to connect.
The legend, Tim Tebow, joins us.
We'll run it back. I like it.
The legend, Herschel Walker. Welcome in, everybody. Little Thursday morning edition, Air Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Air Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. We got ourselves, I think, what will be a very fun Thursday show to bring you into Week 6 of the college football season, Week 5 of the NFL. We're going to discuss Week 6 picks. We got Vandy-Alabama, all of a sudden a playoff, preview potentially. By the way, maybe an SEC championship game preview. We have Miami-Florida State. We have a couple really intriguing games and a couple off-the-radar games that I want to talk about quick. Speaking of off the radar, you might have missed this. It's getting worse somehow for Nico Iamaleava at UCLA. Yeah, we have to discuss another new twist in what is quickly becoming the biggest cautionary tale so far in the history of NIL. And finally, we'll wrap with a couple other things, odds and ends. One, maybe you saw this morning, NCAA Tournament expansion feels like it is officially back on the table and potentially coming not for this year, but for next year. Auburn basketball got some good but not surprising news. Private equity coming to the Big Ten. And then we'll wrap the Arkansas job. So we've talked about it basically, every episode, really, even before Sam Pittman got fired. But we'll have a very special guest, Wess Moore. As you may remember, the man who broke the John Calipari to Arkansas story is going to come on and talk about the football job. Wes has been a media member in Arkansas for a very long time. He's going to join us to discuss that gig. Before we get started, a couple quick reminders. Make sure you're subscribed to Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. We are somehow closing in on 62,000 subscribers. I'm blown away by your guys' support. I appreciate your support. Hey, I think if everything goes right, we should be able to get to 62,000 by next week, but we cannot do it without you guys and girls, so make sure that you are subscribed. Also, if you're not subscribed on Apple and Spotify, make sure to do that as well. Really would appreciate your support. All right, let's go ahead and get to Week 6 of the college football season. Intriguing week, and I'll say this, is that I do think that, listen, I was a little anti, but what I will admit, if there was no 12-team playoff, I actually think Alabama-Vandy now has more stakes because both of these teams could, in theory, get into the playoff. Same with Miami-Florida State. Same with a bunch of these other games. So let's go ahead and dive in. Should mention, by the way, that all of the point spreads for our Week 6 picks are provided by our friends, our partners, our hotel and casino sponsor, Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook. Okay, so I've told you all about Circa here over the last couple months. But the bottom line is, look, when you're in Vegas, there is no better place to be watching big games than the Circa Sportsbook in Vegas. It's literally the biggest sports book in the world. It's beautiful. The facility is amazing. By the way, stadium swim with those outdoor heated pools. You can watch sports literally 365 days a year. What I also know, though, is that not everybody can get to Vegas, can get to Circa Sportsbook in Vegas. And so guess what? Circa has opened a brand new facility in Kentucky. Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. It's right on the Kentucky-Tennessee border. It's about 35 minutes from Nashville, not far from Lexington, not far from Louisville. And here's the bottom line, is that basically, if you live on the East Coast and you want the Circa experience, the sportsbook is a replica of what they've done in Vegas, and it gives you all the same commodities, all the same amenities. But here's the best part. You don't have to go to Vegas. You can do it on the East Coast, Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. And in this world where you need all these streaming services to watch all these, you don't have to do that. Just go to Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky, Circa Sportsbook. You can watch all the big games, college football, college basketball. By the way, we are starting to finalize days that I will potentially be down there during basketball season. So I cannot wait. Franklin, Kentucky, Mint Kentucky Downs, the new Circa Sportsbook. And as always, if you're going, make sure to tag us at Circa Sportsbook or at Circa Sports at Aaron_Torres. That way we know that you went and that I sent you to that Circa Sportsbook. With that said, though, let's get to the Week 6 picks. All lines provided by Circa Sportsbook. Let's jump in. I think it's just a fascinating game. Top 20 matchup, Vandy and Alabama. As I just said, does feel like there are now some playoff ramifications and playoff implications in this game because of the fact that both of these teams are good. Alabama, a 10.5-point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook, over under 57.5. As we do every Friday, I'll rip through all my picks. They will be available later today, AaronTorresOnline.com. We'll also have the graphics up on social media. But my pick for this game, I'll be transparent. I expect points. I expect the over. Couple things here. One, listen, Alabama, I've done a 360 on. I give them so much credit. I left them for dead after Florida State, and they basically answered every question, right? They came out, destroyed UL Monroe, but what happens when they play a power conference team? Then they destroy Wisconsin, but the question is, what do they do when they go on the road? They didn't destroy, but they beat Georgia last week. The one thing that Alabama has not totally figured out yet, though, the running mobile quarterback. Diego Pavia put up 40 points on him last year. Jackson Arnold ran circles around them last year. And oh, by the way, Thomas Castellanos in week 1 ran circles around them. So Pavia going to Tuscaloosa. By the way, did not love Pavia giving them bulletin board material, but I think Vandy is able to put up points. Conversely, though, that Vandy secondary is a little bit questionable. 105th in the country in opponent completion percentage. They're allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete about 66, 67% of their passes. That's bad news against maybe the most accurate quarterback in the country in Ty Simpson. I will say that Alabama does win this game 38-30, but I also think that, in my opinion, the best bet is the over. That is my official Circa Sportsbook bet on Alabama Vandy. Let's keep it going. Top 20 matchup also in Tallahassee. Miami at Florida State. I said this on the college football betting pod. By the way, Matt, maybe you could drop a Apple link or a Spotify link to the college football betting pod. But I bring it up because if you're a child of the 90s, I mean, this was basically LSU Bama into like what LSU Bama is now, LSU or Alabama Georgia is now. Florida State Miami was that in the late 90s, early 2000s, two top 5 teams most year, top 10 teams every year, usually was played at high noon. I told the story on the college football betting pod. I remember there was one year I was playing high school football. I think I was a freshman, had to dress for the varsity games, but knew I wasn't going to play. Maybe I was a sophomore. Did play as a junior and senior, though. No big deal, whatever. But I bring it up because I remember having to dress for a game that I wasn't going to play in, and I was like, I want to be home watching Miami, Florida State. The game was going on at the same time. Anyway, long story short, Miami is a 4.5-point favorite, over under 53.5 in the Circa Sportsbook. I'll be transparent. I like Florida State at home plus the points. Give me Florida State plus 4.5. Why do I like Florida State? Couple of reasons. One, offense is moving the ball on everybody. Even in a loss last week, put up 38 points, over 500 yards of total offense. And here's the other thing, is they had 3 turnovers in that game. So basically, you take out turnovers, they probably would have had over 600 yards of total offense because 3 drives that they were moving the ball were stalled by turnovers. Beyond that, I thought the defense wasn't great last week, but listen, they have been pretty good outside of that game all season long. It's worth noting it was Florida State's first road game last week, but we go back to the Alabama game. Take out the first drive against Alabama. Alabama scored 10 points and had 200 yards of total offense, something like that. 7 TFLs, 3 sacks versus Bama. Florida State is back at home. It's also worth noting this is Miami's first road game of the season. So they're 4-0. They deserve to be ranked number 3 in the country, all the accolades that they've gotten. But I think Florida State at home is able to move the ball. The other thing, too, with that Gus Malzahn offense, there's so much misdirection. I just don't think you can prepare for it. Give me Florida State plus the 4.5. I think they potentially win outright. By the way, you see the college football betting pod link. We do a separate college football betting pod every Wednesday night where we just do deep dives. So this is quick hitters. If you want deep dive previews, make sure to subscribe to that. We also have a YouTube channel for that as well. Let's keep it going. I remember when I was a kid, there was a guy, I think it was one of the action heroes. They said he had a face only a mother could love. Well, I think Texas, Florida might be a game only a mother could love because this one could be ugly. It probably will be. Texas, a 6.5-point favorite in the Swamp. The over-under set at 43. Both offenses struggling. Texas has looked better to its credit. Both defenses are actually very good, and because of that, I do like the under of 43 in this game. Listen, I could do a crazy deep dive. Just go back to that Florida-Miami game. Part of the credit does go to Miami. Part of the blame needs to go on Billy Napier, who is just still defending his decision to be the play caller. I don't get it. Sometimes in life, you just got to admit when you're wrong. Billy Napier, it's going to cost him his job because he didn't hire an offensive coordinator this offseason. But Florida against Miami, 141 yards of total offense. I don't know if I've ever seen this. 0 for 13 on third down. Have you ever heard of a power conference team against another power conference team going 0 for 13 on third downs? I don't know if that exists. By the way, on top of that, I looked it up. If you take out their season opening game against Long Island, FCS didn't know they had a football team. I think Florida would be somewhere in the 130s in total offense this season. Keep in mind, there's only about 135 FBS teams. So I just bring it up. The offense is terrible. And if you want to argue, well, the offense has struggled because they've been playing great defenses, well, guess what? Texas statistically is the best one they've seen so far. I don't think they can move the ball. I will say to Florida's credit, they have been good on the defensive side of the ball. The stat I found, take out the fourth quarter of Miami, 15 quarters before that, Long Island, South Florida, LSU, and the first 3 quarters of Miami gave up 3 touchdowns in the first 15 quarters of that game of the season on defense. So the defense is good. This one has ugly UGLY. You ain't got no alibi. You're ugly, okay? So I think this is like a 17-10, 17-3, 17-13 type game. Maybe Texas covers. I don't know. I think the under is the best bet, and I think it'll go down by kickoff. Let's keep it going. A couple other games. One game that I do not expect the under to hit. Texas A&M hosting Mississippi State. Texas A&M a 14-point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. Over-under set at 57.5. I actually like Mississippi State plus 14 in this game. Listen, A&M is good. A&M quietly very much a college football playoff contender. But what I find interesting, Mike Elko going into last week was very vocal about how worried he was about his defense. Well, I don't think because you played Auburn, you solved anything. I think Auburn's offense is just that bad. And so now you do have a Mississippi State offense that has moved the ball against pretty much everybody all season long. Good news is I don't think A&M will be able to run the ball. A&M will score and A&M will win. But I do still have questions, again, about that defense. So go ahead and give me A&M in like a 35-28, 35-24 type game. I think Mississippi State does enough to cover. By the way, the fun fact I saw in this, the rivalry, but we think of Mississippi State as this bottom feeder in the SEC. No disrespect. That's how people perceive it. Since Texas A&M joined the SEC, A&M is 7-6 against Mississippi State. So I just bring it up because the Bulldogs have had success against A&M. I think this one is close. You know what game I don't think is going to be close? Kentucky at Georgia. Georgia, a 20.5-point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. Over under set at 48.5. Cover your eyes, Kentucky fans. Maybe this is a day to go to Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky, Circa Sportsbook, and get some comp drinks, bet against the Wildcats, bet on other games and other teams. I think Georgia rolls. The one thing I'll say about Kentucky, we talked about Kentucky earlier this week. I think the thing that stands out, Mark Stoops, for years, since he got to Kentucky, this program has won games and been competitive in games on the margins. They know the offense is never going to put up 35 points against great opponents. Here's the problem. The defense is now letting down Mark Stoops as well. That's why I think it's over for Mark Stoops, because if you can't even motivate the defense, you got no shot. They're giving up over 30 points per game in SEC play. Georgia, as bad as they've been, I don't think that things will get, I don't think Kentucky's offense is going to solve itself against a Georgia defense that's been up and down. And I think Georgia is going to come out and make a statement. Only thing that I really worry about with this game, Kirby Smart did publicly say this week, you guys don't respect what Mark Stoops has done enough with this program. So maybe he takes it easy on Mark Stoops because he wants to keep him because it's a nice win on the schedule every year. But I will take Georgia to win and cover the 20.5. Last game. This one's just a situational game. Duke is going to Cal. You might be saying, Torres, why would we be talking about this game? Duke, a 2.5-point favorite, over-under set at 55. The thing I love about the ACC having West Coast schools is that now there are situations where you get, I think, very good value in terms of betting odds and betting picks. I remember last year, Miami with Cam Ward went to Cal right before a bye. And I want to say they were like a 21-point favorite, and they were down. They rallied to win, but it was the easiest cover ever because they were down like 21 as a 21-point favorite or something. I can't remember, but they ended up rallying to win. I bring it up. Look at Duke's schedule. Duke is a 2.5-point favorite at Cal, according to Circa Sportsbook, over-under set at 55 and 55. Why do I bring it up? Duke, this is their 5th game. They have a bye next week. They just played at Syracuse and beat Syracuse, surprising Syracuse right after Syracuse beat Clemson, okay? Now, they fly home. They probably get back late Saturday. They have to fly out to the West Coast and play. They have to fly out to the West Coast and play at Cal in a 10:30 Eastern start time right before they go into the bye. My guess would be, by the way, I'm guessing there's probably a couple players on this team that aren't even going to take the charter back to Duke and will probably be going somewhere else after this game. So I just bring it up because they're going to be checked out. Now they got to fly cross country. Cal, by the way, is not terrible. They have that freshman quarterback. I don't know how to say his name. It's a long name. Let me put it that way. But he was committed to Cal, flips to Oregon on signing day, then transferred to Cal. He's a good player. Anyway, bring it up. I like Cal plus 2.5. Really quickly, my 6 best bets for the week. Again, they will be available, AaronTorresOnline.com. And also on top of it, they will be available as well on Instagram and everything. But I like the Vandy-Alabama over of 57. I like Florida State plus 4.5 at home against Miami. I like the under of Texas and Florida, a game only a mother could love. I like A&M, Mississippi State plus 14 on the road. I like Georgia minus 20.5 at home against Kentucky. And I like Cal at home plus 2.5 against Duke. Gamble responsibly. Be responsible. Those are my week 6 college football picks. By the way, intriguing week 7, including the Red River Shootout, which may or may not have John Mateer. With how good that Oklahoma defense is, I don't know if it's going to matter. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. When we do, developments, Nico Iamaleava. You thought it couldn't get worse than being 0-4 for a lousy school after you transferred out of a college football playoff program. Oh, it got worse this week. We're going to come back, talk Nico, a couple other news and notes, and then a very fun interview as we look at the state of the Arkansas job 1 week in to the new era post Sam Pittman. Quick break. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute, but before we do, I have so many people that reach out and say, Torres, you give me hours and hours and hours of free content every day, every month, every year. What can I do to help support the show? Well, you want to support the show and look good in the process. Make sure to check out and support the Aaron Torres Media merch store at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Some of you wondering, what can I get in that merch store, Torres? Well, Kentucky fans, we got our Mark Pope Hope and Pope t-shirts. That is right. Mark Pope, monster first year. Year 2 is going to be even better. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirt at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is coming. It is here. John Calipari has things rocking. Get your Big Pig Invasion tees. Again, AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. St. John's fans, we have our Big Rick Energy t-shirts. And if you're just a college basketball fan in general, guess what? Your March is for Day Drinking shirt. That is the shirt that you need year-round, but especially for the next NCAA tournament. You can order yours now. By the way, football fans, we got you covered too. Auburn fans, we already know the freeze warning has hit the plains. Make sure to get your freeze warning t-shirts. Also, Nebraska fans, new era, new rules, the t-shirt that you need before the start of this coming season. And oh, by the way, if you're a Colorado fan, if you're just a Coach Prime fan, we have our Dion shirts and hats, more of them than we know what to do with. So to check out the full line of Aaron Torres Media merch and also support the show, good news is we're going to have even more for the fall. Check out the Aaron Torres Media merch store at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. And for more information, you can always reach out at Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Good to be back. So we still got a lot to get to. Drop your comments, your thoughts in the chat. I do want to go ahead and get to an interesting development with a guy who has certainly been part of the college football conversation, Nico Iamaleava. Before we get to it, though, I should mention that it is that time of year. You want to go to college football games. Maybe your college football team stinks like UCLA and you want to go to college basketball games, Major League playoffs, NFL, anything to get your mind off your lousy college football team. Well, guess what? Take advantage of our friends, our partners, America's #1 ticketing app, SeatGeek, which, oh, by the way, is also the official ticketing app of the Aaron Torres pod. Okay, so SeatGeek, listen, like I said, America's #1 ticketing app, 28 million downloads. That's an insane number. 28 million downloads. What I love about SeatGeek is a couple things. One, what I love is that they rate every ticket 1 through 10. They let you know what's good, what's not. A green dot means go ahead and purchase. A red dot means maybe you need to wait. But what I really love about SeatGeek is they take care of listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. What do I mean by that? This is all you got to do. You know, I have a code for all of you. You can use code Torres for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code Torres when you buy tickets on the SeatGeek app. So it's that simple. Go to SeatGeek.com, download the SeatGeek app. If you use promo code Torres, anything on the SeatGeek app, by the way, it's not just college football, not just college basketball, concert, show, if they're selling tickets for it, SeatGeek.com, SeatGeek app, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. $20 off your first purchase, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. All right, let's go ahead and keep the conversation going. And we got to discuss what has quickly become, I would say, college football's most interesting soap opera. It's certainly still interesting. In some ways, it's sad. I don't even know if it's a soap opera. Maybe it's just one of those sad stories, depending on what side of the aisle that you're on. But we have not touched on the world of Nico Iamaleava. I think we've been calling it as Nico Iamaleava and UCLA turn. I'll tell you what, it has certainly taken another very interesting twist this week. Okay. So like I said, Nico has been a story since April. We know what happened. In some ways, we don't have to revisit what happened in April. Tennessee got the better end of that trade. I think it's pretty indisputable at this point. Joey Aguilar has been phenomenal. I've actually seen some advanced stats where Joey Aguilar has actually been better than the stats are showing. There's actually been more drops and kind of catchable balls that Tennessee guys didn't get, whatever. This isn't a Joey Aguilar segment, although it could be. But at the same time, it's just been a disaster for Nico. And it actually somehow got worse over the last 4 or 5 days, okay? And we kind of stopped talking about it because it kind of there wasn't really anything new to discuss. But like I said, last probably 5 or 6 days, there certainly has been. The first thing that we do need to discuss, UCLA just basically missed their best shot to win a game the rest of the year. So they were 0-3 coming into this past weekend, coming off of a bye, going to Northwestern. Okay, Northwestern, in my opinion, is probably the second worst team in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, I think the middle and the bottom is getting better than it has been. Teams like Nebraska aren't a pushover anymore. Teams like USC is better, even if they're not where people want them to be under Lincoln Riley. And so I just bring it up because Northwestern really kind of represented the best chance that you had to win, okay? Well, you don't beat Northwestern. How about this for a stat? You don't beat Northwestern in a game where you never had a lead. Okay, so this is kind of an incredible stat. So you played Northwestern, probably the second worst team in the Big Ten. You never had a lead. As a matter of fact, Matt, you could pop up that stat that I found on Twitter. UCLA, the only power conference team right now that, or the only team in the never had a lead at any point in a lead, the easiest part of their schedule to date. Never had a lead against UNLV, first-year head coach Dan Mullen. Never had a lead against New Mexico at home, first-year head coach Jason Eck. Never had a lead at Northwestern against what is probably the second worst team in the Big Ten coming off of a bye. And so I think 0-12 is in play. I would also add this. You add insult to injury. Tennessee last week goes on the road. They're playing in a crazy SEC environment. They probably have 20,000 fans travel with them to Starkville, called it the Tennessee Takeover at Mississippi State. Nico, did you see where he was playing at with UCLA? So UCLA was playing at Northwestern. You think the crowds are bad at UCLA? Northwestern is currently renovating their stadium. I did not realize this. I watched their game against Oregon. I figured, okay, they're playing in some bandbox, 10, 12, 15,000 people. They're playing in a lacrosse stadium at Northwestern that holds 2,000 people. So instead of playing in front of 70,000 people in an SEC road venue where 20,000 of your fans travel, you're playing in front of 2,000 at UCLA. And I do think, oh, by the way, 0-12 is very much in play. Somehow, though, if you didn't think it could get worse, it did, because yesterday, I guess it was late Tuesday, so I guess it was technically 36 hours ago at this point, UCLA actually fired its offensive coordinator. Okay, so Tino Sunseri, the son of the legendary Sal Sunseri, who's been been all over college football forever. Tino Sunseri came in as the new offensive coordinator at UCLA this season. Came from Indiana. By the way, fun fact on Tino Sunseri, was the only coach that left Indiana after last year's playoff run. They retained the rest of the staff. He comes to UCLA, calling plays. Earlier this week, he was fired. Now, you want to play a game of college football Mad Libs. It was actually Rick Neuheisel's son, who is now the new offensive coordinator at UCLA. But I just bring it up because every time that you don't think this story can get worse, it somehow does for Nico Iamaleava. Okay, at this point, let's just talk it out, because as bad as I think anyone with a brain didn't think this was going to go well. I don't think anybody could have imagined that it was going to go this bad. Okay, so we know the scenario why he left Tennessee, or we know the scenario that he left Tennessee. He claims it's to be closer to family. By the way, he claimed it was to be in a more sophisticated offense. Well, guess what? The offensive coordinator just gets fired. This after the head coach who brought you in gets fired. You have now an offensive coordinator who has never called plays, a second offensive coordinator in 1 year. And then on top of it, you have all the other variables that we talked about. You left a team that you just led to. I don't know how much you led them. Dylan Sampson led them, and the defense led them. But you get what I'm trying to say. You were just the quarterback of a college football playoff team a year ago. I was thinking about this. Tennessee fans will bring it up, and they're 100% right. Even no matter what the relationship was with that fan base, he was, along with Josh Heupel, the face of this rebuild into the new era of college football. And so if he had just stayed at Tennessee, even if he wasn't great, he becomes a program legend, and he is a guy that pretty much never has to pay for a meal in Knoxville the rest of his career. He's probably doing autograph signings for the rest of his career. Doesn't matter if it works out as a pro. Doesn't matter if it doesn't. Whatever. Who cares? He's a Tennessee legend. He leaves Tennessee. He's now playing in front of literally high school crowds at home. Now he's playing in front of high school crowds on the road. He took less money on top of everything else. And I just think there's a few variables that we have to talk about here. One, 0-12 is absolutely in play, okay? So I looked at this schedule. It's unbelievable. First of all, this was the easy part of the schedule, like I said. UNLV, first-year head coach in Dan Mullen. New Mexico, first-year head coach at home, Jason Eck. Northwestern, first-year head coach Northwestern, worst team in the Big Ten, not named UCLA. This is what the schedule is the rest of the way. I'm not going to read all of it, but among the schedule, Penn State this weekend, probably not going to end well. Indiana on the road. Ohio State on the road. USC, we can criticize Lincoln Riley for where the program is relative to where we thought they are clearly a better team on the road. At home, you get Washington, significantly better team than you. Nebraska, significantly better team than you. Maryland, significantly better team than you, that's going into this weekend at 4-0. Matter of fact, I looked it up. Just for fun, I wanted to see. What I saw was this. Their final 8 games, the combined records of the teams that they will play are 29-5. On top of being 29-5, some of those losses are against each other. So, for example, Washington's only loss is to Ohio State, 2 teams that UCLA will still have to play. So 0-12 is very much in play. And this has just become the ultimate college football cautionary tale. You just go back to the decision that was made, how it was made, why it was made. But you also look at the fact that if Nico had, and his family, I know you tend, whatever, it's a lot on his dad. Let's make no mistake about it. His dad also, by the way, kind of screwed up his younger son's career, whatever. But if they had just stayed at UCLA, Nico probably would have been a first round pick, or if he had just stayed at Tennessee, probably would have been a first round pick after this year. That sounds crazy. That sounds whatever. It's the truth. Josh Heupel would have put him in a position to put up a bunch of stats. They probably would have been competing for a playoff spot again. And it's a situation where you're a late first rounder, probably a second rounder, whatever. But look at this draft class. You mean to tell me Nico with Josh Heupel would not be better than Cade Klubnik, would not be better than Garrett Nussmeier, would not be better than Arch Manning so far? And so that was the situation. Gave it all up. Now you're at UCLA. I think he's going to have to re-enter the portal after this year. Now, maybe somehow UCLA pulls a rabbit out of their hat. They get a good head coach and he stays. But he ain't going to the NFL unless he wants to be a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, if not undrafted. And then on top of that, you're probably going to have to enter the portal again. Third school in 3 years. You already took your red shirt. You can't do any. It's just such a disaster. And so I know I'm not supposed to say this publicly. I know it makes me unpopular, whatever. I do feel a little bad for him. This was just an all-time bag drop, an all-time mistake, an all-time regrettable decision. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say that his career maybe, possibly, probably has been irrevocably changed and irrevocably damaged. It's a disaster. By the way, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions in 4 games this year. This, of course, after a season in which he led Tennessee to a college football playoff with 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So, again, I don't know if I'm supposed to feel bad or not. I know most people would say don't feel bad for him, but this is a cautionary tale. This is a lesson to all the parents out there in the NIL world. There are legitimate reasons to transfer. And by the way, there are legitimate reasons for quarterbacks to go places to take more money, but not when you're a 5-star, not when you're one of the highest paid players in college football, and not when you're on a trajectory to the NFL. If he was a 6th-year senior that somehow got an extra year of eligibility, I'd say go transfer. Do what you got to do. That ain't the situation. Nico Iamaleava, I'll say it. I feel bad. I don't care if anybody criticizes me for saying it. Cautionary tale in this NIL world. Really quickly, just get a couple odds and ends. We will talk about the Arkansas coaching search and the latest there with Wess Moore. He is a reporter who has covered Arkansas for a long time. Why it's noteworthy, the last time he was on the show, it was hours after he broke the story that John Calipari was coming to Arkansas as the head coach. He was the first person to break that story before Pete Thamel, before John Rothstein, before Jeff Goodman, etc. So he'll join us in about 10 minutes from now. Really quickly, just want to hit on a couple odds and ends from the rest of the week. Matt, I'm going to kind of go out of order. I think let's just stick with college football for half a second. This private equity story picked up steam on Wednesday. So long story short, it sounds like the Big Ten is at least engaging with these big companies about private equity for their college football programs. I don't love it. I looked into it a little bit on Thursday morning, and it's interesting. Michigan and Ohio State are the schools that are actually pushing back. The reason that it sounds like the Big Ten is pushing forward is because there are clear revenue gaps between the best programs in that league, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, whatever, and the bottom tier teams in that league. UCLA would certainly qualify, probably Maryland, probably Rutgers. So to me, it feels like it's being pushed from the bottom, not the top. Now, what'll be interesting to see is if they do it going forward. I was thinking about this. It reminds me in some ways of COVID. If you go back to that COVID year, remember who wanted to play more than anybody else? Ryan Day, for all my criticism of him, was very vocal. I want to play. Jim Harbaugh, if you remember, Jim Harbaugh was coming off the worst, Jim Harbaugh was coming off of whatever. He hadn't had the success that he had. And he said at that time, I remember, he said, if you told us we could play tomorrow, we would be ready to play. I think he said, if you told us next Saturday we had a game, we would be ready to play. It was Michigan. It was Ohio State. I'll credit Scott Frost. It did not work at Nebraska, but he was very vocal about playing. And it was the Rutgers and the Marylands and the whatever that were trying to get the season canceled because they're like, we don't want to get our brains beat in for the next 3 or 4 months. Well, it's kind of the same here. It feels like it's the Rutgers, the smaller schools that are really pushing for this. I don't know where we are. I don't know what it means. I don't know that it's the best for college football. I will say, I think what was kind of interesting about reading the article, it isn't just about infusing money into these programs, but more so about, how do we maximize revenue? I thought that was kind of interesting. Like they referenced, if you saw this week, there's stories that schools might be able to sell jersey patches. And so, one of the officials told ESPN, like, rather than each school selling them for $1 million a piece or whatever, could we sell it for $50 million as a conference and everybody gets more money out of it? So those are kind of the variables there. We don't have to spend too much time on it. Whatever. It's kind of bureaucratic. I don't know how many of you really care, but thought it was worth at least 5 minutes to discuss. Speaking of bureaucracy that sucks, speaking of bureaucracy that's going to ruin college sports, Ross Dellinger on Thursday morning did put out an article. Sounds like we're getting NCAA tournament expansion in 2026, 2027. So we don't have to go through too much of this because I've spent a ton of time the last couple months discussing this. But there was talk of going to 76 teams, NCAA tournament, adding 8 at-large teams. And the committee, the decision makers, they said in July or August or whenever it was, we will not do it for the 2026 NCAA tournament, but it's on the table in the future. And at the time, I think it was misguided and misjudged as to what was actually being said publicly, because I remember saying it at the time. They said, we have shelved conversation about tournament expansion for now. And what I said was, they're trying to shut you up. They're trying to shut the media up and the fans up that don't want this. And they're going to try to sneak it in the side door and they're trying to celebrate, hey, the tournament that you love is going to be the same for 2026. And they're going to try to sneak it in the side door for future years. This is exactly what's happening. Keep fighting the fight, keep being vocal about it, keep pushing. Listen, I think it's stupid. I tweeted this on Thursday morning. You go through and look last year at the teams that missed the NCAA tournament. Indiana, which lost 13 games, at one point lost 8 of 10 and fired their coach, would have been in the tournament if it was a 76-team field. Nebraska, who did not qualify for the Big Ten tournament. Remember, the Big Ten only took 14 teams in their tournament last year, would have been in the NCAA tournament. It's something that nobody wants. It devalues an already kind of sketchy regular season in terms of how much people care. And it's just proof the people that are running this sport don't care about you, the fan. Keep fighting it. Keep pushing it. I don't know how much is going to change, but it's worth discussing. Just a moment, we'll get to Wess Moore. I do have one quick story, a little bit of a positive story. I thought this was maybe a little bit over-reported, but we know Bruce Pearl retired, 10 days ago now, whatever. And we know that the transfer portal opens for any Auburn player for 30 days after Bruce Pearl's retirement. And at the time, we were doing the live stream. I had people ask me, do you think any of his players are going to enter the portal? And what I said at the time was, no. I said, no, not really. I said, it's a month before the season starts. All of the best players would have to sit out this year, and the NIL money would be worse. The only person that's taken less money for a worse situation is Nico Iamaleava. Nobody else is going to do that. So shout out to Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall, probably Auburn's 2 best players this year. Auburn had a media availability on Wednesday, first media availability with the players since Bruce Pearl retired, since Stephen Pearl took over. And those 2 players, Tahad Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall, confirmed they're not going anywhere. Never really thought it made sense, but, as long as the portal's open, it's always going to be an option. I think Tahad Pettiford, play this year, ball out. It's more likely you're just going to be a pro next year than go somewhere and take a red shirt, right? Doesn't make sense. Now you're going to have to stay in college another year. Keyshawn Hall doesn't even have a red shirt to take. So I never thought it was a thing, but it probably is worth addressing. By the way, college hoops is really right on the doorstep here. Next week is Big Blue Madness at Kentucky. This Friday, primetime at the Palace. That's Arkansas's kind of introductory thing. You better believe next few weeks, we're squeezing a lot of college basketball into this show because the stories are going to start to ramp up. It's going to get interesting. And November will be here before you know it. I will be in Vegas on that opening night for the doubleheader, Florida, Arizona, BYU, Villanova. We'll have plenty of coverage, my predictions for the season ahead, all of that good stuff. So with that said, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're going to have a lot of college hoops as well. We're going to get to Wess Moore in just a second. So Wess Moore was the reporter, if you remember, I think it was like April 1st of 2024. I'm sitting in Phoenix at the Final Four. UConn's about to play Purdue for a national title. I'll tell you the story because I don't think he'd care. Wess Moore texts me about 10 a.m. Pacific time. He says, dude, Torres, I think John Calipari is about to be the next Arkansas basketball coach. And I was like, texting him back, keep me updated, whatever. I was with family. My mom was at the Final Four that year. She's a UConn alum like me. I said, just keep me. I don't have time to chase this, whatever. 9:10 p.m. Central Time, Wess Moore tweets out that Arkansas is hiring John Calipari. So Wess Moore is the guy who broke John Calipari to Arkansas. He's going to join me in just a minute to talk about the Arkansas football job, what candidates are realistic, what aren't, and what's the next steps from here. Before we get to Wess Moore, a couple quick reminders. Make sure you're subscribed to Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. Thank you to Circa, our casino and hotel partner. Thank you to SeatGeek. Use promo code Torres, gets you $20 off your first purchase. And also, thank you to Collie Puffs, our friends, our partners, the official college football snack of the Aaron Torres Pod. All right, so Collie Puffs, I've told you their story, but Collie Puffs, family-owned company, not far from where I live. Joey, the founder, a huge sports fan, was sitting on the couch one day and said, you know what? I need to find myself a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something I'm going to love, something my kids are going to love. He created Collie Puffs. This is a family-owned company. The best part is, though, they're healthy. It's a healthy snack, but delicious, something that you need right now during football season. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. But darn it, these things taste freaking delicious. At this point, you're going to take my word for it. You can try them for yourself, and they have a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres Pod. If you are a listener of the Aaron Torres Pod, all you got to do, go to ColliePuffs.com. That's CAULIPUFFS.com, ColliePuffs.com. If you use promo code Torres, it gets you 15% off your entire purchase. 15% off your entire purchase. ColliePuffs.com. They're available on Amazon, but you can only get the discount at ColliePuffs.com. ColliePuffs.com, promo code Torres. Thank you to Collie Puffs. We appreciate their support. All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to wrap the show here with just my ugly mug on the screen, and we're going to get to Wess Moore. So again, Wess Moore, for those of you just joining us, covers Arkansas. He has a new YouTube channel, Moore Sports, Moore, Moore Sports, where he does all things Arkansas. He also hosts a radio show Monday through Friday, 1 to 4 Central Time, so plenty of Wess Moore. And again, he was the dude who broke John Calipari to Arkansas. Is he going to break John Gruden to Arkansas? Dan Mullen to Arkansas? I don't know, but we're going to go through everything. Legitimate candidates, not legitimate candidates, why Arkansas has a chance to get their football John Calipari. Quick break. I'll be done for the show. So, got to say, shout out to Torrent Craig. Rachel hates my voice. JJ Reddick, UF head. Quick break. We'll wrap the show with Wess Moore. We appreciate your support. We'll be back Sunday morning to talk about whatever happens in the world of college football. Thank you for your support. Quick break. Wess Moore on the other side.
What's up, everybody? It's AT, and I've told you before, when I'm on the road, when I'm podcasting, sometimes you end up looking like a slob. Look at me, mismatched socks, I'm wearing shorts. What am I doing? The folks at FiloBox said, Torres, let's get you some fresh gear to look better when you're on camera. Well, what do you think? This is all part of the spring collection for FiloBox. These jeans, perfect when I want to go to games, casual, serious, business casual, you name it. Got the quarter zip. And oh, by the way, we got this perfect zip. This is the perfect spring, summer zip that you can wear when you're out with friends. Maybe it gets a little chilly. Maybe it's a little chilly in the morning. Perfect for all occasions. So this is what I need you to do. If you like what you see, and you should, what I need you to do is visit FiloBox.com. That's FiloBox.com, FIOBOC. By the way, FiloBox has a special promo code for listeners of the Aaron Torres Pod. Use promo code Torres and get 20% off your purchase. Thank you again to FiloBox. By the way, make sure that you're following them on social media at FiloBox, FIOBOC. Thank you, FiloBox.
All right, joining me via Zoom. The last time that we had Wess Moore on the pod, he was hours, maybe minutes off of breaking one of the biggest college basketball stories basically of this century, John Calipari to Arkansas. So we figured we'd bring him on. If you want to break John Gruden to Arkansas at any time in the next like 20, 25 minutes, whatever. But let's go. First of all, Wess Moore, More Sports on YouTube, and of course, hosts Out of Bounds, which is every single day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 4 Central Time. And let me ask you this. First of all, how are you? We don't get to talk as much as I'd like, but are you doing good? And I'm guessing you don't have trouble filling up 3 hours on Out of Bounds every day here these past couple of days.
Aaron, it's crazy because I went to the game Saturday. I was in Fayetteville, and we were excited, sold out crowd, 75,000. The atmosphere was awesome. A flyover, Arkansas gets the ball, they go down, they have to settle for a field goal. And I was like, man, that's not the way. I talked about this on the air. They need to go down, score a touchdown, get the momentum, get the crowd involved, get the defense going. And it was the opposite. You settle for a field goal, and it's like, and then sure enough, defense, bam, 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 touchdown. And then it just quickly got out of hand. And the next thing you know, I think it was 35-13, Aaron, and it was almost halftime. I was like, I got to have a drink. And so I went to the concession stand and grabbed a beer. And while I'm standing in line, Arkansas fumbles. Oh. And then the screenplay, and it's 42-13. Mm-hmm. And before I even got my drinks, man, I saw all these people coming out of the concourse, and I was like, beat them before they got to their, get in line to get the drinks, right? No, they just kept on walking and left. And I stayed for a couple of drives in the second half and went to the tailgate party. We had a huge tailgate party, and we just started having fun. What the shame of it, we're outside the stadium at a huge tailgate party, thousands of people around. You can see nobody. I mean, the tents are full of people, and you can see right through the stadium, right there, a sliver of the action. And inside, there's nobody there watching the game. Everybody's outside tailgating. And the bad thing about it, they weren't even watching the game, Aaron. Wow. People were watching A&M and the whatever game. They just had lost interest. And so in my mind, I'm thinking this next week or two is going to suck. I mean, we're got to talk about this team and how bad they are and just the effort. And I was just not looking forward to it. But then the more I started talking to people, getting texts, I was like, you know what? This is it. This is the nail in the coffin. They're going to make a move. And it was clear to me by Saturday night late that this was going to happen. And so then all of a sudden it just changes. It goes from having to talk about a bad performance and the team struggling to a coaching change. And you're right. It just totally changes the content for this week, next week, and the future of the show.
Well, really quick, by the way, you mentioned having a drink. We're recording on Tuesday night. Now, I bring that up for two interesting reasons. One, I'm having a cold beverage. We might not run this until Thursday. So one, if we run it in the morning, I don't want people thinking, listen, there's nothing wrong with day drinking. Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific might not be an ideal time to start. But also, I'll also add this. Coaching search time is not the real world time. So we're recording Tuesday night. So if we run this on Thursday, it'll be 36 to 48 hours. So we're recording in real time. If stuff changes, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at Wes. We're just talking in real time about this Arkansas thing. Stuff is going to move fast, and then it's not, and then it is, and then it isn't. But let's get into it. First of all, what you said to me is so interesting. I observe this as an outsider. What I've said consistently, I think, the Memphis thing was really bad. And what I said that day, the next day, this week, last week, whatever, was I think the noon Eastern, 11 Central start time was as detrimental as anything else, because not the win-loss, but, I think there's been this perception. I don't know if you've heard the outside noise of there's been this perception of, well, it's Arkansas and it's hard to win in the SEC and, be grateful for Sam Pittman. And listen, let me just do the caveat off the top. You covered Pittman. You know him better than I do. Great guy, great person, great human being. Nobody's criticizing the character or how bad he wanted it to work. But at a certain point, you do have an obligation as maybe the highest paid state employee in Arkansas to actually deliver wins. But I bring it up because I think the Memphis game really crystallized, this isn't an overzealous SEC fan base demanding better. This is functionally there's something not right. And then after all of America watched that on that Saturday against Memphis, because remember, The Clemson game was rained out. It was in a lightning delay. The Texas Tech Utah game was a blowout. That was the only game that was on TV. Everybody saw the meltdown. Then everybody saw the Notre Dame game. And so, yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I do feel like I got to a point on Saturday afternoon because, you know, like I'm saying, I'm not trying to criticize other people that do this in our business, but I saw a couple of the, oh, you know, they may wait a few weeks to knock down the buyout. And I'm like, it's done. It's over. You can't, like, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it just felt like by halftime Saturday, there was no salvaging it. And then I know you were at a tailgate, whatever, but you could take it whatever direction you want from there.
Well, I'll say this, and I did the math. I bet 40,000 people left the stadium in the second half.
Wow.
And if every person spent $20 in the second half, and let's, you know, beer's like $14. So, you know, we're being conservative. But if everybody spent $20, that's $800,000 they lost in the second half. Now, think if they keep him and then Tennessee's bad, and you're just keeping him for the buyout to go down, you know, from 75% to 50%. They actually negotiated it to 62.5%. But you keep him just so you can get down to that 50% of the buyout, and nobody comes for A&M, nobody comes for Auburn, nobody comes from. How much money are you losing? So you were going to lose that anyway, so you might as well cut the cord and maybe, you know, Patrino catches lightning in the bottle and you get good crowds for those 3 games in October at home.
Yeah, I think that's something that I have sensed as well, is that I think people are going to show back up. I think they want Patrino to succeed. I think, you know, even the people that don't want Patrino as the full-time head coach, like, they want him to succeed. So let's get into the search right now. And let me just start by asking you this. Where are we at, not with candidates, but internally, what does the administration hope for in a future head coach? Obviously, we know Bobby Petrino's in the mix, but I guess, you know, let me even backtrack. Who do we think is making the hire? Because I'll just say this, and you and I have talked privately, but I live in LA. You come visit all the time, never hit me up. Another conversation for another day. UCLA. It's pretty well known in town among the people that actually care about UCLA football, which is not many. The AD may be on some search committee. He has no say in whatever. Do we know yet? Like, I know Hunter Yurachek at his press conference on Monday said, as far as I know, I'm making this hire. Do we know yet who is either going to have final say, first say, making the contact? Is Hunter Yurachek still reaching out to ADs and this and that? Like, how is this search going to look here over the next couple weeks?
I think this search, what it needs to do is involve some of your big money boosters who are either going to contribute more or a lot more, depending on who the hire is. I'm not saying you let them decide the future of this program, but I mean, look how it worked with John Tyson and Calipari. If you can pull something off similar to that, then you shock the world again. Can you get some boosters involved to say, I haven't been giving as much, but I'm willing to give X amount of dollars if you go get this guy. And it truly is a guy you want. I mean, you can't have, you know, and I'm just throwing out Gus Malzahn. You know, if there's somebody that says, hey, I want Gus Malzahn, I'm going to give you X amount. I don't know if that plays for the rest of the state. But if it's a guy who says, you know what, let's shoot for the fences again. Let's go get Dabo. You know, and I'm not saying it, but I'm throwing out a name that would excite a lot of people that might get some boosters go, we'll step up a lot what we're giving if you can go get a guy like that. And so I would include those guys because the game has changed. You know, Coach Broyles would be rolling over in his grave if, you know, you're letting boosters decide, you know, or have a say in who you want to hire. But the game has changed. You got to have money. And that's one of the things at Arkansas with Coach Pittman. And that was the argument. He didn't have enough money. And even Hunter Yurachek admitted Wednesday he didn't have the tools to be successful in the SEC. The argument is it was because people didn't trust in Coach Pittman. They didn't trust if they gave more money that he could go and get better players and succeed. And so there was that hesitancy to give. Well, now you got to find a way for people to give and believe in that new candidate. So I would involve those guys. And I think you do. You have to, in this day and age of college football, get a feel for some of your more important donors out there, because it can make a big difference in the money that you have for the hire and then the money you can spend on your program.
Yeah, no, I think it's been interesting kind of watching other people talk and speculate about the hire. And it's like, oh, Arkansas is this, Arkansas is that. And then, you know, there's the dynamic of we know that the money's there. And it's so funny you bring this up because we talked about it on my Tuesday show. I'll give you a basketball example, but NC State, when they fired their previous head coach, it's like, oh, what's the NIL situation? Then it's like, well, Will Wade comes in and basically has whatever he wants because people believe in him. And I think probably I would assume it's the same at Arkansas. Now, with the Hunter Yurachek thing, a two-part question. He had his comments a few weeks ago about people are going 70 on the highway and they're really going 90, but they're only supposed to go 70. I guess the money would go towards a coach, but I guess let me even ask you this. Have you yet heard anything one way or the other about how his comments, the Hunter Yurachek, the AD, and I think mostly people watching this will be Arkansas fans, but AD basically came out and said 2-3 weeks ago, hey, we're not ready, or we are not right now able to compete at the highest level. And that's where I think that's the most underrated part that nobody's talking about this search is if I'm a prominent head coach, which is obviously what Arkansas wants, and I have my choices, and I just heard the AD that is going to be my boss say that, one, I'm either worried that I'm not going to have the resources needed, or two, I think as importantly, I'm going to worry, is the guy that's hiring me right now, the guy that's sitting as the AD, going to be the AD when I get here or in a year from now or in 18 months from now? I'd just be curious. I know how the comments played with Arkansas fans, and I defended fans that were frustrated with those comments. Behind the scenes, how, as much as you could share, I don't want to get in trouble with any of your sources in the administration, but those comments just, I haven't met anybody yet that was like, oh yeah, no, those comments were totally in line. Like it just felt like something, even if you mean it and you think it, you shouldn't say it.
Yeah, you shouldn't. That is something you say in front of some of your big donors. That's a conversation you have with them and say, we need you. You don't say that to the Little Rock Touchdown Club. That's like it's a rally. It's what it is. It's a Razorback fan base rally, and you're telling them that. It did not sit over well at all, and it didn't sit well with the Board of Trustees. In fact, Friday they had a meeting. Hunter Yurachek was at that meeting and explained himself to the best that he could. I've been told some of them understood and got it. Didn't mean they liked what he said, but they understood what he was trying to say. And then some others just didn't like it still, period, that they're upset with that he chose that forum to say that kind of thing. And he presented a lot of data. Matt Jones with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, wholehogsports.com, was presented and has published a story that showed that Arkansas ranks near the bottom in the SEC in head coaching salary, near the bottom in coaches' salary, near the bottom in recruiting salary, near the bottom in a lot of categories in spending. And so that's his way of showing the board, guys, we got to do something. We got to change something. And for the first time, Aaron, and it came out in the press conference Monday that they may be thinking about, the board may be thinking about the University of Arkansas system of funding some of the athletic department. This has been a self-contained athletic department, not taking any money from the university. Everything they spend is money they bring in. And there are a lot of schools. There aren't a lot of schools that do that. And with the times changing, Arkansas may be looking at that avenue, kind of like, who was it? Was it West Virginia Tech today or West Virginia? Can't remember which one. Their board of trustees voted to, over the next 5 years, give like $280 million. So,
wow.
But that's where we are. I mean, in the arms race with money, that's what is needed. And so that was his way of saying, well, yeah, we need money. Here's the examples. But then you can always go back and say, you're the athletic director. That's your job.
Yep.
You're supposed to be raising this money. Why isn't there a name on the University or Reynolds Razorback Stadium anymore? I mean, it's still Reynolds Razorback Stadium, but the Reynolds family has dropped that sponsorship. It ran out. They didn't drop it. It just ran out. There's a title sponsor out there to be had. That's a chunk of money. What's going on?
Big chunk of money.
Yeah. And so that's the question. That's some of the heat he's getting. That's your job. Raise the money. What are we doing? And what is the plan? That's what people want to know. Okay, it's broken. How are you going to fix it?
Okay, so kind of a follow-up to that. What was I going to ask? I'm all over the place today. All right, so I guess what my question would be as a follow-up to that is, so it didn't land well with boosters and everything like that, but my question is this, is it did come out on Tuesday that Arkansas was kind of in the middle of spending and this and that in the SEC. So this was going to be my question. This is my sentiment. You can disagree. A fan member, an audience member can disagree, whatever. Is there any reason, because again, the national sentiment, I think up until the last 2 weeks was 6-6, deal with it, be thankful for Sam Pittman. Is there any reason that Missouri can mess around and win 10 games every once in a while? That Ole Miss. I mean, we're talking about teams that have historically been in that second tier of the SEC. And I guess my only question would be, is there any reason outside of maybe boosters aren't giving because they don't believe in Hunter Yurachek that Arkansas can't, again, and I want to specify something before I throw it back to you, Wes, and I'm rambling, but, I can't speak for everybody. The Arkansas fans that have commented to me, that have reached out to me, I have yet to meet anybody that's like, we should be 12-0 every year and beating Georgia. Bring on, we want Bama. I've yet to meet that person. Maybe that person exists. I'm not on message boards, so I don't know. But I just bring it up because I think in this 12-team playoff era, what's cool is that if you have the right coach, the right funding, and stuff has to go your way. But you can be Indiana. You can be SMU. You can be Ole Miss. You can be Missouri, who 2 years ago in the last year of a 14 playoff would have made a 12-team playoff. So I guess the only point I'm trying to ask, I'm terrible at asking questions without giving a 4-minute preamble. Is there any reason that if Missouri's winning 10 games every 2 or 3 years and Ole Miss is winning 10 games every 2 or 3 years, that Arkansas can't be the same, and at the very least with the right coach, every 2 to 3 to 4 years be in that conversation for a 12-team college football playoff, or obviously 16 if we end up getting there?
You nailed it with the right coach. With the right coach to get the fan base excited, and to throw it back, the first Bobby Patrino run, that was a team. If it would have been the college football playoff back then, they're in it for 2 years in a row. So with the right coach that can rally the fan base, the donors, Arkansas can be a team like Missouri or Ole Miss that, they're not going to be Alabama, Georgia, Texas, or something like that. But with the right squad and everything comes together, you can be a top 12 team. And I don't think anyone's thinking it's going to happen every single year, but they're good enough, and this state is proud enough that they could support something like that. And you're exactly right. But Arkansas should not be a team where it's been for the last since Patrino. You had a year with Bielema, you had a year with Pittman that they won 9 games, counting a bowl, but those are too far and in between.
Kind of as a follow-up to that, I understand the SEC has gotten tougher. It has for everybody. Texas and Oklahoma are there, 9 games coming next year. But conversely, because I've heard people argue, the Arkansas job is. I think you can argue because of NIL, because of parity, because of the transfer portal, it's a better job than it was maybe when Sam Pittman took over, certainly when the coach before him took over. Do you believe, just your personal opinion, do you believe that, yes, the landscape is tougher, but the dynamics have changed with the 12-team playoff? You could be the third or fourth best team. Do you believe it's a better job today than maybe it was even when Sam Pittman took over in 2019 into 2020?
No doubt. And I've said this several times. I'm going to tell you, Sam Pittman reminds me of Mike Anderson in basketball. He took over a program that was struggling, that was really bad. It was at the bottom. It was embarrassing. And Mike Anderson took it to a level of respectability. Now, he could never quite get it over the hump, but it made it a more attractive job that Eric Musselman took it and then took it, to another level. And then that made it even more attractive to where John Calipari comes into Arkansas. So I do think Sam Pittman's kind of the Mike Anderson of basketball. He took them at the depths, the bottom. They couldn't win an SEC game. They were horrible. They were embarrassing. He took over that embarrassing, horrible program. And today, it's a lot better. They've gone to bowl games. They've won SEC games. And it didn't end the way, Hollywood ending. He would have retired this year. That was in the plans. He was going to retire and give them a little break on the buyout and just head off to Lake Hamilton. But, it's not a Hollywood script ending. But I do think Coach Pittman will be remembered for taking over a program. And look, he wasn't choice 1, 2, 3. There were a lot of people, they couldn't get to take that job. And there was a reason why, because it was a bad program. It was in a bad situation. He took that job and made it a better job for somebody else.
Just your opinion. So this is not even a Rhett Lashley topic specifically, but I'll just ask another follow-up. I believe that you can argue that virtually any SEC job and Big Ten to a smaller degree is basically better than any ACC or Big 12 job because of the stability that is in that league. And again, those leagues are just going to get the benefit of the doubt. 9-3 Alabama, there was a big push to get in over SMU last year, even though the committee basically said, hey, if you make the conference championship game and you're already in the playoff, we're not taking you out. I would bring it up because this isn't even a Rhett Lashley question, but I think there's something to, yes, the SEC is tougher, but I think most people in the industry are like, I want to get to the Big Ten, I want to get to the SEC because that is stable ground in an unstable world. Do you get that sense talking to people around the world of college sports?
Yeah, college coaches are competitive. You want to see how you do against the best, and the best is the SEC and the Big Ten. So, yeah, there's that value of going and competing against the best teams in the SEC and the best coaches in the SEC, and that helps you get some of the best players because you do play in the SEC. So when you're out there recruiting and it's between you and a Big 12 team or a ACC team, you're going to have a leg up. And let's face it, the SEC and the Big Ten are bringing in more money, and so they have more money to spend. They have bigger donors, and they open up the pocketbooks. And so, no, it's a very attractive job, and it doesn't mean it's for everybody. Not every coach wants to do that, but for the most part, coaches are competitive, and they want to see how they do against the best.
Couple more. You mentioned big donors involved. I'm just curious because you would know better than most. We saw the report that Jerry Jones is pushing for Rhett Lashley. I was just curious, how actually involved is Jerry Jones? I mean, everybody knows he played football there, whatever. I mean, I've never seen him at a game that's not at Jerry World, so I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just genuinely curious. Like, is it the convenient, well, he's a rich dude, he loves football, and he played at Arkansas, so he must be like on the phone with Hunter Yurachek nonstop, or is he? What is his actual relationship with the athletic department?
It's not known. We talk about that all the time. They've got this beautiful facility, and it's got his name and his wife's name on it. That's where it's kind of student center where all the athletes go and can study, and computer labs and everything. And they built that. I mean, that was a huge investment for their part. But as far as what they do every single year, as far as donations, I really don't know what that is. But I know if I was the AD, I would be doing everything I could to get him involved even more. He'd be one of the guys I hit up. Yeah, you want him? Here's what we're going to need. I mean, we're going to have to buy him out. We're going to have to pay him. We're going to have to pay his assistants. We're going to have a better scouting department. We're going to have a better NIL fund. Look what they have at SMU. Why does he want to leave SMU for what he's got at Arkansas? We need your help. We'll make this happen, but we need you.
Interesting. Only real other question I have, you mentioned Mike Anderson to Musselman, who raised it to another level, and then John Calipari just makes it something that whatever. Do you, when I say whatever, for people who can't see or whatever, like I'm saying that in a positive way, like Musselman's really great coach, but there's only one coach, Cal, and it's just different when you win, when you lose, when he says something, when whatever. But as an unbiased observer from the outside, it feels like it's been just all PR is great PR. Now, when he started 0-5 in the SEC, another conversation. But then you make the Sweet 16, and it became a feel-good story. Do you get the sense that the success, and I think it's been a success, well, it remains to be seen, of the Cal hire, does that make, and again, it's so tough because I don't want to speak for you. I don't think we know who's even making the hire. But do we get the sense that makes everybody want to shoot for the stars? Say, if Cal will come here, if he'll do this, if he'll, whatever, why can't we go get Dabo or at least make the phone call? Why can't we get Gruden? It's like, I just feel like this is 7-8 years ago. Forget the NIL stuff. It's just, but Cal has made Arkansas just so relevant on a scale that I feel like is even different than anybody else. Does the school feel like we can do this in football too?
Well, and I can tell you from the fans' perspective is once you've done it once, it's like, why can't you do it again? Because who would have thought that Calipari would ever come to Arkansas? Who would have thought that was even possible? I mean, I can tell you firsthand when I first tweeted it, the responses that I got. I mean, I was getting ripped because I'm an idiot. That would never happen. Well, yeah, people believe that. Well, now because it's happened, it's not crazy to say, guys, you got to at least kick the tires on Saban. Is he sick of TV? Would he want to come back and just you got to kick the tires on Dabo? It doesn't sound as absurd now. but after that, you shot for the stars and got the moon in Calipari. So, yeah, if you've done it once, you know what you have at the University of Arkansas, and you know what you have in some of the donors. Why can't you try to rally them again and find an equivalent or something similar to Calipari and go out and shock the world? I mean, how crazy would that be? And that would be the selling point. If I'm Hunter Yurchek, guys, we've done this once. What if we did it again? What if we went out and just shocked the college football world? And then all of a sudden on our campus, we have Coach X in football, Calipari in basketball, Dave Van Horn in baseball. Are you kidding me? This is the opportunity we have right now. Let's come together, get your guys to come together. Let's get this chess fun and go surprise the college football world.
I was going to say, John Tyson, I know you're watching. Do you have, you want to consult with Nick Saban on who he would go after as the head coach? It worked out well last time. I'm with you. And I'm very curious to see where this goes. Really quick, because I mentioned him. I am personally leading the Gruden crusade. And I know that that makes me controversial. Okay. Like half the internet loves me, half the internet hates me. The man said I would, quote, die to coach in the SEC. By the way, I think his second to last year with the Raiders, he went like 9-7, which is like going 15-2 anywhere else. And he just, he would just bring that interest and credibility. I keep saying on my show, I think everybody's a little sour on the NFL stuff because of Belichick. And it's like, this would not be Belichick. This would be star recruiter, huge brand, great in front of the camera. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but and again, it's tough because, again, I don't know if we know yet this second who's actually making the hire and if that person is in place. But do you believe that John Gruden will or maybe just will? And then if you want to share should or could, but do you think he will be or is a candidate legitimately for the job?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's go. All right.
I mean, John Daly was on the morning show this morning on the Buzz, and he said, that's his good friend. He's like, we got to make this happen. And, John Daly has the ears of a lot of important people. So I think the tires will be kicked and there will be some talks. And I've been told there is interest from Gruden's part. So I think there's something to it. Is it going to happen? I don't know. We're still a long ways from that. But once again, I'm not dismissive of that at all. If anything, I'm just like, will it work in college? Is it going to be a success? Well, we don't know. But then again, there are a lot of people, a lot of candidates that you just don't know if they're going to be successful. So unless it's somebody that's proven and they're ready to take it to another university. But no, it's not absurd. Not at all in the least bit. No, I think that, to put odds on it, I'd give it at least a 10% chance of happening. So it's not a super long shot. I'm not going to say like 1%. It may be even greater. It could be 25% chance. But I do think that is a route that they will look into.
Yeah, no, I right before we recorded the Little Rock Touchdown Club video came out of him saying, I would never do it before players were getting paid, but I know a bank with $27 billion and what did he say? Something to the effect, sign me up today or something like that. I guess, listen, we all want the big name. We all want the new thing. I guess I probably should wrap. What do you think Bobby Patrino actually has to do to keep the job? Because I do think there's a big percentage of people that I think everybody wants him to succeed to the point where he can keep the job. I have thoughts on what I think he needs to do to keep the job. What is your perspective on what he needs to do to keep the job?
Well, it's got to be a totally different looking team. The team that showed up at Notre Dame cannot show up at all against Tennessee, Texas A&M. The effort I'm talking about, the lack of effort on defense was just atrocious. If that team shows up, period, probably not. But if they're competitive, they play hard, with reckless abandon, and you're just like, these guys are trying. They're trying. They're giving effort. They care. If we see that, then he's got the possibility. But then they got to win too. You can't go out and do the same thing Pittman did and lose a couple of one-score games because nothing has really changed. So, honestly, he's got to win some. I'm not saying go 5-2. Well, if he goes 5-2, give him the job. They got 7 games left. 5 are against ranked teams. So it's going to be tough. 4-3, 4-3. That's a 6-win season. You're going to a bowl game after this start. then yeah, there's that definite possibility. And then the conversation 2-5, 3-4. What do you do there? It has a lot to do with the look of the team and if he's been able to change things in Fayetteville.
Yeah, my personal opinion is it feels like 4-3 bowl game. It'd be hard to say no because you're going to beat some teams that are going to make people happy. And I'll say this in defense. Now, the offense looked good until the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame was whatever. But, we're recording here obviously before Texas plays Florida, but Texas defense looks good. Offense is kind of LSU, sorry. Offense stinks. I'll just say it. Garrett Nussmeier stinks. Sorry, just saying it. Auburn, offense is not good. Like the games that I think even 3 weeks ago look like, no. And I'm not saying it's easy to go to LSU and win, but like there are games now that feel much more manageable than they were. All right, Wess Moore, can hear him on Out of Bounds. By the way, tell us about the new YouTube channel. You're on this YouTube journey. Good luck. I say a small prayer for you every single night, but tell us more about your channel. You're crushing it, but tell us more about it. What you're doing over there, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's More Sports. Can you see the logo up there? Yeah, More Sports. Easy to find on YouTube. I'm on Twitter. Razorback fans know where I am. But yeah, if you're new, if I'm new to you, go look for me on YouTube. More Sports. We're on Monday through Friday. I get my focus. I get a bunch of former Razorbacks, just guys that I've been covering and I've created relationships. We had a bumper pool on Tuesday night. Wednesday night we had Hayden Henry, former Razorback linebacker, and tonight we Braylon Mitchell, another linebacker. Had 3 linebackers in a row, which is kind of fitting after the performance we saw from the defense.
I was gonna say, we need him to suit up. They got any eligibility left or what, man?
They weren't very happy. They were ready for this Razorback defense to get back to way it should be, and not looking so effortless out there. So that's kind of what we do. And I talk a lot of Arkansas high school football. That was kind of my forte. I love high school football and covering these guys. And it's kind of how I got to know them. That's how I got to know Braylon Mitchell. That's how I got to know Hayden Henry, covering those guys in high school. But yeah, we're Monday through Friday, usually in the evenings. And of course, we're going to do post-game Razorback shows, and it'll just continue through basketball with the Razorback basketball. But yeah, it is Monday through Friday, usually some Saturdays thrown in. Heck, Parker Romo, I had a contact with him, the Atlanta Falcons kicker that, Sunday Night Football, got introduced to his teammates. I had a connection with him and I did a Sunday morning show with Parker Romo. But yeah, we're just talking Arkansas sports, man. Anyway, we can find a way to get involved with Arkansas sports. I love it, man. But go check me out.
You should have gone live from the tailgate on Saturday. That would have drawn a interesting crowd.
Honestly,
or did you?
Well, the week before the Memphis game, I went live for a post-game show at a Dallas Razorback alumni party.
Okay.
And Chris Gregg, the former Razorback tight end, played with the Buffalo Bills. He joined me for that show. And I was planning to go live from the tailgate party, but it was so bad. It was just so bad. And I knew I had some guests that were going to come by and join me, but I knew that they weren't going to come. And it was just going to be me solo talking about that mess. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go have a drink and I'm going to be a fan, and we'll talk about this later. And sure enough, I had to do a special show Sunday after Pittman was fired. So we made up for it.
No, I was going to say, yeah, I can imagine that it wouldn't have been very fun to do the tailgate show on Saturday, but all right, More Sports on YouTube, and of course, Out of Bounds Monday through Friday on the Buzz. So I join you there pretty regularly. You haven't hit me in a while, but it's actually good. You shouldn't hit me because you have so much to talk about. You don't need guests to fill up with BS. People can get my BS anywhere. So it seems like a crazy. And by the way, basketball this weekend starts, so I'm excited. I know Razorbacks fans are too.
Tomorrow night, prime time in the Palace. Bud Walton.
I will not.
I did that. I knew this was running Thursday, and
it is running Thursday. We're recording Tuesday, but yes, Friday night. Is it prime time at the Palace?
Prime time in the Palace, something like that.
It's good though. It's good. I'm excited, man. Cal pushed this whole Midnight Madness thing. I thought he might actually pull off something at midnight, but it all worked.
8:30, I believe it is.
Yes. All right. Wess Moore, More Sports. Check him out Monday through Friday on More Sports on YouTube and streaming, and then also on the Buzz Monday through Friday, 1 to 4 Central. Wes, we appreciate the time. Next coaching search, we'll have you on. I mean, if you haven't already broken the news and people are bored with it already, I mean, no big deal. We should do I was thinking too, we should do a mean tweets with Wes Moore. We should find the original tweet and then just the responses. That would be fun. But all right.
Ugly.
All right. Monday through Friday with Wes.